September 19th, 1944, 7:42 a.m. Hill 246, near Aricourt, France. The fog clings like a shroud, thick and unyielding, swallowing the world in a grey haze that cuts visibility to a mere 30 feet. You can almost feel the damp chill seeping through your uniform, hear the muffled rumble of engines echoing across the Lorraine countryside, like distant thunder promising a storm. Lieutenant Edwin T. Leiper, 26 years old, hunches in the open turret of his M18 Hellcat tank destroyer, eyes straining against the mist. His heart pounds in rhythm with the idling 400 horsepower Continental radial engine beneath him. This isn't just another patrol. The air crackles with unspoken dread. German Panthers are out there, somewhere in the void. Leiper's platoon, 4 sleek, lightweight M18s from Company C, 704th Tank Destroyer Battalion, crouches on the hill's crest, attached to the 4th Armoured Division under General George S. Patton's relentless Third Army. These Hellcats are no behemoths. At just 17 tons, they're toy-sized compared to the monsters they hunt. Thin armour, only 13 millimeters on the front glacis, barely enough to stop a rifle round. But speed is their armour. 55 miles per hour on roads, a blur that can outmaneuver death itself. The 76mm M1 gun in the turret packs a punch, but against a Panther's 80mm sloped frontal plate, useless head-on. You need a flank shot or a lucky deflection off the mantlet into the thinner roof armour. Doctrine from Brigadier General Bruce C. Clark drills it in. Hit hard, scoot fast, live to fight again. The Germans are pushing hard. The 5th Panzer Army's counteroffensive aims to smash Patton's advance, reclaim Nancy, and hurl the Americans back over the Moselle River. Leading the charge, the 113th Panzer Brigade, fresh with 45 brand-new Panthers, 45-ton juggernauts armed with the deadly 75mm Kapliké 42-ATA 70 cannon, capable of punching through Allied armour at over a kilometre. Their crews, elite and battle-hardened, advance in column formation through the fog, blind and overconfident. No reconnaissance scouts ahead, just the growl of Maybach engines and the clank of tracks on muddy earth. Captain William A. Dwight, liaison from the 37th Tank Battalion, spots them first, a shadowy line snaking up the valley. He radios Colonel Clark. Enemy tanks approaching, column formation. Clark's voice crackles back. Leiper, get your platoon to Hill 246. Hold the line. Leiper's Hellcats roar to life, racing into position. Sergeant Justin Stacy Smith's lead vehicle crests the hill, gunner peering through the M76 sight. The fog parts just enough. 75 yards out, a Panther's silhouette emerges, turret traversing slowly, hand-cranked in the murk. Stacy's gunner doesn't hesitate. Boom. The first round slams into the Panther's track, shattering links and halting the beast. The second punches through the side armour at point-blank range. Flames erupt from the hatches. No survivors. The crew's screams are lost in the explosion. 80 yards to the right, another Panther looms. Leiper's own gunner adjusts. Crack. The shell ricochets off the mantlet, deflecting downward into the driver's compartment. The tank shudders, black smoke billowing as the crew perishes inside. 4 minutes in, and the tally climbs. 5 Panthers down. One's turret jams from a ring hit. Another explodes as ammo cooks off from a sponson penetration. The Hellcats dance. Reverse, reposition, fire again. Their electric turrets whip around in seconds, while the Panthers' slower traverses leave them exposed. Sergeant Henry R. Hartman, a 3-year veteran since the battalion's activation in 1941, flanks left. His first shot pierces an engine deck, igniting fuel lines. The Panther burns like a pyre. His second shreds a sponson, detonating stored rounds in a spectacular fireball. Number 3, a precise turret ring strike, locking the gun in place as the crew abandons ship under machine gun fire. Leiper scores 2 more, clean penetrations that turn steel coffins into infernos. Sergeant Miller's crew deflects one off the mantlet, the shell burrowing through the upper glacis. The fog aids the ambush. Germans fire blindly, shells whistling overhead or detonating harmlessly in the dirt. But at 8:02 a.m., the tide shifts subtly. 6 Panthers coordinate, advancing uphill in a wedge. The Hellcats unleash hell. 3 destroyed in 10 seconds flat. Tracks mangled, turrets blown. The survivors retreat, one abandoning a crippled tank. Then, disaster strikes. A lone Panther flanks from the mist, 40 yards out. Its Cupper Q-42 booms. Miller's M18 erupts in flames. The sergeant and his gunner killed instantly, loader wounded. Leiper's platoon pulls back, 1 Hellcat damaged but mobile. Hartmann, undeterred, nails the 14th at 200 yards. Turret jammed, crew bailing. And the 15th? A mantlet hit that deflects perfectly, no explosion, but the Panther goes silent, its crew claimed by the ricochet. In 46 minutes, 15 Panthers lie smoking on the field. Hartmann's 6 kills make him the ace of the morning. The 113th Brigade staggers, their advance broken. But as the fog begins to lift, revealing the carnage, Leiper wonders, how long until the Germans regroup? The battle for Aracourt is just beginning.
September 19th, 1944. 11:15 a.m. The fog has burned away under a pale autumn sun, revealing the full horror of the morning's slaughter. Hill 246 overlooks a graveyard of steel. 15 Panther hulks scattered across the valley floor, their blackened carcasses still smouldering, acrid smoke curling into the sky like funeral pyres. You can almost smell the burned rubber, cordite and something worse, flesh seared inside iron tombs. Lieutenant Leiper's remaining Hellcats hold the crest, engines idling low, crews scanning the horizon with bloodshot eyes. But the Germans aren't finished, far from it. Across the fields, near the village of Lezzy, the 111th Panzer Brigade, veterans of the Eastern Front, prepares to strike. Their commander, Oberst Heinrich von Bronsart, knows the morning's losses have bloodied his flank, but the order stands. Take Aracourt. Cut off the American spearhead. 45 more Panthers and Panzer-WWIIs rumble forward, supported by Panzer Grenadiers in half-tracks. This time, they advance cautiously, using hedgerows for cover, scouts probing ahead. Sergeant Henry R. Hartmann, call sign Hellcat 3, sits in his M18, sweat stinging his eyes despite the chill. The 28-year-old from Pennsylvania has already claimed 6 Panthers this morning, more than any tanker in the theatre. His gunner, Corporal John A. Jack Rooney, wipes soot from the breech of their 76mm. Loader Private First Class Anthony J. Cicchino feeds another AP round into the ready rack. Driver Technician 5th Grade Robert L. Chamberlain keeps the engine purring, foot hovering over the accelerator. Bowman Private First Class William J. Gallagher scans with the .50 caliber, finger itchy on the trigger. They call Hartmann's tank the Tiny Terror. It's the same M18 that survived North Africa, Sicily and Normandy, dented, patched but unbroken. The crew trusts it like a brother. And now, fate has placed them alone on the forward slope. At 11:47 a.m., the first Panther crests a distant rise, 800 yards out. Too far for a sure kill. Hartmann doesn't fire. He waits. Doctrine again. Ambush, not duel. The German column fans out. 10 Panthers in a staggered line, turrets traversing methodically. They haven't spotted the lone Hellcat yet, camouflaged in a shallow defilade behind a stone wall. Hartmann whispers into the intercom. Hold, hold. The lead Panther closes to 600 yards. 500, 400. Now. Fire. Rooney's shot cracks like thunder. The tungsten core APC-BC round streaks across the field, slamming into the Panther's lower hull just above the track. Penetration. The tank lurches, smoke pouring from the engine compartment. Secondary explosions rip it apart. Number 16 for the battalion. Number 7 for Hartmann. The Germans react instantly. Turrets swing toward the flash. Long, 75mm rounds howl overhead, detonating in the trees behind. Chamberlain reverses hard, the Hellcat leaping backward into cover. Dust and dirt fountain as shells bracket their position. But Hartmann's already moving, flanking left at 40 miles per hour, kicking up mud, racing for a new firing position behind a knocked-out Sherman. The Panthers advance, cautious now. One probes too far. Hartmann pops out at 300 yards, side shot. Boom. The shell punches through the thin side armor, detonating inside the fighting compartment. Flames erupt from every hatch. Number 17, number 8. Minutes stretch into a deadly ballet. Hartmann dances his lightweight destroyer around the heavier cats, using speed and terrain like a matador's cape. The Germans try to encircle him, but the open fields favor mobility. Another Panther exposes its flank while maneuvering. Rooney's round finds the turret ring. The massive turret slews sideways, jammed forever. Crew bails under Gallagher's .50 cal chatter. Number 18. Then, the impossible. A Panther commander, spotting the elusive Hellcat, charges straight at it, closing to 150 yards, trying to overwhelm with frontal armor. Hartmann's crew holds nerve. At point blank, Rooney aims for the mantlet again. The shot deflects perfectly downward through the driver's visor port. The Panther veers wildly, crashing into a ditch. Number 19. Hartmann's 9th. The tally climbs relentlessly. 20-21. Each kill precise, mechanical, track shots to immobilize, then finishing blows to hull or turret. The German advance falters. Von Bronsart radios for withdrawal, unable to comprehend how one American vehicle is dismantling his brigade. By 1:30 p.m., Hartmann's M18 has single-handedly accounted for 14 Panthers destroyed or disabled, pushing the day's total past 30. The fields around Aracourt are littered with over 40 German tanks from both brigades. The 111th and 113th Panzer Brigades, elite formations meant to stop Patton cold, have been gutted in hours. But Hartmann's Hellcat is still untouched. Not a single penetrating hit. German gunners curse the Geistpanzer, the ghost tank that strikes and vanishes. As the sun dips lower, Hartmann pulls back to rearm and refuel. His crew, exhausted but exhilarated, shares silent glances. They've done the impossible. But tomorrow, the Germans will come again, with everything they have left. And somewhere out there, one Panther crew nurses a burning hatred for the tiny American tank that humiliated them.
September 20th, 1944. Dawn breaks cold and clear over the scarred fields of Aracourt. The air hangs heavy with the stench of diesel, scorched metal, and death. 43 Panther and Panzer IV hulks litter the landscape like fallen giants, silent testimony to yesterday's slaughter. The 111th and 113th Panzer Brigades have been reduced to shadows of their former strength. Patton's Third Army smells blood. The push toward the Rhine accelerates. But the Germans have one last card to play. At 6:45 a.m., Sergeant Henry Hartmann's M18 Hellcat, still miraculously unscratched, takes position on a gentle rise south of Aracourt, overlooking a broad meadow flanked by sparse woods. He is alone again. The rest of Leiper's platoon is refueling and rearming farther back. Hartmann volunteered to hold the forward screen. His crew is bone-tired, less than 4 hours of sleep, but adrenaline and coffee keep them sharp. Radio chatter crackles. German armor massing near Bézange-le-Petit. Remnants of both shattered brigades, reinforced by whatever tanks the 5th Panzer Army can scrape together. Estimates: 10 to 12 Panthers, a handful of Panzer IVs, desperate to restore momentum before Patton's divisions overrun the entire sector. Hartmann's orders are simple: delay, disrupt, survive. At 7:28 a.m., the first grey shapes emerge from the tree line, 800 yards out. 11 Panthers in loose formation, moving fast, turrets already hunting. They've learned. No blind advance this time. Flanking scouts probe the hedgerows. Infantry ride the rear decks. Hartmann lets them close. 600 yards. 500. His heart thuds against his ribs. Jack, lead Panther's center mass. Rooney traverses smoothly. The 76mm barks. The round strikes the Panther's glacis. Ricochet, sparks flashing in the morning light. No penetration. The Germans spot the muzzle flash instantly. 11 long guns swing toward Hartmann's position. Chamberlain slams the Hellcat into reverse, dropping hull down behind the rise as the first 75mm shells scream overhead, detonating in geysers of earth. Dirt rains on the turret. Gallagher's .50 cal chatters back, more defiance than damage. Hartman flanks right at full throttle, skimming the meadow's edge. The Panthers fan out to envelop. He pops into view of 400 yards, side shot on the second tank in line. Boom. Clean penetration through the sponsons. Ammunition cooks off in a thunderous blast that flips the turret skyward. Number 22 for Hartman. Total German losses now at 44. The response is furious. 3 Panthers charge his position, trying to close the range where their thick frontal armor reigns supreme. Hartman dances backward, firing on the move. Track it on one, immobilizing it. Rooney finishes it with a second round through the rear deck. Number 23. But the net tightens. A 4th Panther, commanded by an experienced Oberleutnant who survived yesterday's mauling, anticipates the flank. The Kapitän 42 roars first. He holds fire until Hartman crests a low ridge at 250 yards. The high-velocity round slams into the Hellcat's thin frontal plate at a perfect angle. Penetration. The M18 shudders violently. Flames erupt inside the fighting compartment. Rooney is killed instantly. Shikino screams as shrapnel tears into him. Hartman, thrown against the turret ring, feels searing pain in his shoulder. Wounded, but alive. Chamberlain and Gallagher drag him clear as the Hellcat burns fiercely, ammunition popping in the blaze. The tiny tank that humiliated 2 Panzer brigades, that single-handedly accounted for 23 Panthers destroyed or mission killed, finally meets its end. The 3 surviving crew members crawl into a ditch as the remaining German tanks rumble past, too focused on retreat to hunt infantry. By noon, the battered remnants of the German counteroffensive withdraw eastward, leaving Aracourt firmly in American hands. In 5 days of fighting, the 704th Tank Destroyer Battalion, mostly with lightweight M18 Hellcats, has destroyed or disabled over 60 German tanks, including at least 43 Panthers, for the loss of only 7 Hellcats and 25 men. The Battle of Aracourt becomes the greatest tank destroyer victory of the war in Europe, proving that speed, aggression, and perfect ambush could triumph over superior armor. Hartman, bandaged and evacuated, will receive the Distinguished Service Cross. His crew's stand becomes legend within the 4th Armored Division. The burned-out hulk of his M18 is photographed by war correspondents, captioned simply, "The tiny tank that killed 25 Panthers." The Germans never again mount a serious armored threat in the Lorraine.
December 1944. The snow begins to fall across the Lorraine Plateau, blanketing the blackened wrecks in a thin white shroud. War correspondents and Signal Corps photographers swarm the Aracourt battlefield, capturing images that will soon flash across American newspapers and newsreels. Front-page headlines scream, U.S. tank destroyers smash Panzer counterattack. Patton's Hellcats rout elite German brigades. But one photograph stands out above the rest. A lone, burned-out M18 Hellcat, its thin hull scarred by a single penetrating hit, surrounded by the massive hulks of no fewer than 7 Panthers within a 300-yard radius. The caption reads simply, "One American tank destroyer versus the German Panthers. Score 23-1. Back in the States, the story spreads like wildfire. Sergeant Henry Hartman, recovering in an English hospital with a Purple Heart and the freshly pinned Distinguished Service Cross, becomes an overnight hero. Reporters crowd his bedside. How did a 17-ton lightweight take on 45-ton Panthers and win? They ask. Hartman, modest and soft-spoken, shrugs through the pain. We were faster. We knew the ground. And we shot first. His crew, Chamberlain and Gallagher, both decorated with silver stars, echo the same refrain. Teamwork, training, and the M18's electric turret traverse that turned 3 seconds faster than any German gun. The army seizes the propaganda goldmine. Training films feature reenactments of Aracourt, narrated in grave tones. Speed is armor. Aggression is survival. Recruits at Fort Hood and Fort Knox watch grainy footage of Hellcats darting across fields, firing, vanishing, striking again. The 704th Tank Destroyer Battalion's battle honour is painted on every M18 in the European theatre, a Black Panther silhouette with a red slash through it. In Germany, the defeat stings deeper. Captured Panzer officers, interrogated at 12th Army Group headquarters, speak with bitter disbelief. "We had the best tank in the world," one Hauptmann mutters. Yet a single American Spielzeugpanzer, toy tank, destroyed half a company. The Arakour debacle contributes to growing doubts inside the Wehrmacht High Command. Hitler rages at reports of cowardly withdrawals, but the truth is undeniable. The Panther, for all its engineering brilliance, proved vulnerable when deprived of initiative and reconnaissance. Historians will later call the Battle of Arakour the largest tank battle on the Western Front, fought not in the open deserts of North Africa or the bocage of Normandy, but in the muddy fields of eastern France. Over 11 days in September 1944, American forces destroyed or disabled 86 German tanks, mostly Panthers and Panzer IVs, for the loss of 14 minutes and 18 seconds and 11 Shermans. A kill ratio approaching 6-1. The M18 Hellcat earns its official title as the most effective tank destroyer of the war. Years pass. The wrecks rust away, reclaimed by farmers or scrapped for post-war rebuilding. But Hartmann's Hellcat refuses to fade entirely. In 1952, veterans of the 704th locate the burned-out hull near Leslie, tow it back to the United States, and restore it with loving care. Today it sits in pride of place at the National Museum of the United States Army at Fort Belvoir, Virginia. Turret traversed defiantly, a plaque beneath reading: M18 Hellcat, Hellcat 3. 704th Tank Destroyer Battalion. Battle of Arakour, 19-29, September 1944. Credited with 23 enemy tanks destroyed. Sergeant Henry R. Hartmann, Commander. Visitors pause before it, struck by the contrast. The sleek, almost fragile lines of the American vehicle, dwarfed in imagination by the ghosts of the steel beasts it felled. Children run their hands along the thin armor and whisper, "How did it survive so long?" Veterans of later wars, Korea, Vietnam, the Gulf, stand longer, nodding in quiet recognition. Speed, aggression, training. The same lessons, etched in fire. Henry Hartmann lived a quiet life after the war, working as a machinist in Pennsylvania, rarely speaking of Arakour unless asked. He passed away in 1998 at age 82, but every September, surviving members of the 704th and their families gather at reunions, raise a glass, and tell the story one more time. The tiny tank the Germans couldn't destroy, until it had already killed 25 Panthers.